What is going on, fellas? What is going on, world? It is the Spotlight Sports Talk, and I have a special guest with me today. Introduce yourself, man. Let them know who you are, because, I'm a smaller channel, so a lot of people don't really probably know about it from my channel, so let them know who you are, my guy.
So this is Seby from the SebyPodcast show. It's myself and my entire cast here. I am the host and the founder of the show. And basically what we do sports content. We do player interviews, pro athlete interviews, debates, talk shows, and we just educate the general public about sports here on the SebyPodcast show. And you guys can find me on all streaming social media platforms. That goes for Instagram, YouTube, to Spotify, iTunes, Twitter, and it all. So pleased to be on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to have you here. We've been talking it up, trying to get this going, but we finally got it here. But before, we get into all this, please subscribe to both of our channels here at Spotlight Sports Talk and at SebyPodcast on YouTube as well, because they definitely do have some great content. So subscribe to both of our channels, if both of us put this on, on our channels as well. So you ready to get into these talks, man? There's been a lot going on in the last couple of days with sports, man.
The sports industry and the sports world, there's always news, man. There's always news, always. I'm excited. Let's get to it.
Well, we might just talk about it as it is. Like you said, you already knew what's going to happen. The LA Lakers had decided to pull out of the active AD trade talks. How do you feel about that? Because me, per se, I had a feeling it was going to happen because the Pelicans wanted too much. But at the same time, the Lakers was willing to give up that much. But I don't know what made the Lakers, get out of this AD talks. What you think was the purpose of it?
Well, man, for me, I bleed green, so I'm a Celtics fan at heart. Besides a podcaster, but I wasn't shocked because Dell Demps wanted it all. He's talking 4 picks, and it could be in increments of perhaps 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders, or 4 first-round picks alongside the young key pieces, the Zubaks of the world, the Ingrams, the Zoes, the Josh Harts, and the key piece in Kyle Kuzma is himself. And so when you think about it as a GM, whether you're Jimmy Buss or whether you're Magic Johnson, that's a handful to give back for Anthony Davis. As talented as Anthony Davis is, I think he's a top 3, top 4 player in the world. He might end up top 2. So he's worth a lot. I just don't think that he's worth your entire asset of teams. We're talking pick assets. We're talking young and ascending and developing superstars that can develop as superstars someday. Excuse me. So I'm looking at it from a GM perspective with Magic Johnson. It was a handful to give up, and so it's tough. And now with the Lakers not being aggressive and not being able to get Anthony Davis before the deadline, now the Celtics all of a sudden come back in. The Knicks, they've got max money to get 2 key free agents this summer alongside the number 1 overall pick, perhaps. People that are thinking they're getting Zion Williamson, we'll see. Teams like the Clippers, teams like Brooklyn, dark horses. I don't think they're in the front runners, but those teams are a little dark horses. And Milwaukee, teams like that now come in the discussion because come July 1st, Anthony Davis is definitely going to get the national recognition of all 32 teams.
My thing is this. I knew the Lakers wasn't going to get him. I didn't want him to go to the Lakers. And the reason why I say that is because if so much you give up, the Pelicans would have won that trade. If you would have looked at the roster that they have and what they'll be adding to the roster. Now, you add Kuzma with Okafor and Holiday and Randall. That's a young caliber team that could probably get a 6 or 7 or 8 seed with that team alone without Anthony Davis.
Right.
And at the same time, I think Boston wants to get him, but I'm not too sure because it's the whole issue with Kyrie.
Right.
That's another issue that comes into play. What they're going to do with Kyrie at the end of when it starts July 1st.
Right. Well, sources are saying that they want to build their own big 3. They're saying what essentially what Danny Ainge is saying, you can have everybody but Kyrie and Tatum. So they want to have their big three alongside Anthony Davis with that, and they're saying you can have anybody you want. But the key piece is Kyrie going to stay, which I think he will, and are the Pelicans are going to want Tatum in a trade. That's going to be the key piece there for Danny Ainge.
That will hurt to have Tatum leave because he's a young superstar that's coming up, averaging 20 points a game, balling for the Boston Celtics. So it would be wrong to trade him for Anthony Davis. But I think the best landing spot right now could be the Toronto Raptors or it could be the Milwaukee Bucks. I think Anthony Davis needs to go over to the East. Makes the East a little bit more powerful in some ways. The East is pretty weak right now. So if you bring Kawhi with Anthony Davis to go to Toronto, that probably would make Kawhi Leonard stay in Toronto.
Right.
That's another piece there, and you could probably sign a long-term deal with Toronto. But he only said that, I know it was a source came out yesterday saying that he only will sign a long-term deal with the Clippers, Lakers, Bucks, and Knicks. They're the only 4 teams he said he would do a long.
Brooklyn was added in that as well.
Say what?
Brooklyn was added in that as well.
I don't know if he'll go to Brooklyn. I mean, Brooklyn's playing really well, but I think he wants to be alongside of a real all-star. I mean, you do have all-star replaced by Oladipo not being in, but you do have someone over in Brooklyn being an all-star. But I think he want to go somewhere where he thinks he can win a championship right now.
Exactly.
Milwaukee Bucks is the best spot, and Toronto's the best spot. I mean, if the Boston Celtics could get in there and get it done, they are automatically in the finals. Automatically in the finals. I'm a Sixers fan, and I love what my Sixers is doing. I know we need a guard, but that's another story for another time. I can see y'all definitely going to the finals if y'all pick up Anthony Davis.
No doubt. And you hit it right on the dot there. It's going to be difficult. I actually came out yesterday and I posted on my Instagram there that the Bucks himself, the fear of the deer, the freakish nature that Giannis Antetokounmpo is, he's luring and applauding GM and the Bucks to get Anthony Davis. And you think about the pairing with the Greek Freak and Anthony Davis, that's 2 of the top 5 players in the world on the same team. You want to talk about a team full of trees. Whoa, that can be your pantheon, your transcendent pillar cornerstone duo for like 8 to 10 years. These guys are still young, not even entering their prime. The only thing is, I understand your argument with the Toronto Raptors and the Bucks. My only concern is this: they don't really have enough to give. The reason why that the Boston Celtics and the Lakers are not only attractive for Anthony Davis is because they have the most to give. When you look at the Bucks, per se, as an example, you've got Chris Middleton, who's an excellent player, excellent two-way player. He can score the basketball and also depend a 3-and-D guy. You also got young and ascending pieces like DJ Wilson and also Malcolm Brogdon. Now, those are key pieces. Now, alongside, you don't have any picks until 2024. You don't have any compelling rising superstars. Out of those players that I picked, there's not one guy that you can say, okay, in about 3 to 5 years, I can perhaps see him be a legit all-star, superstar caliber player. And when you look at Toronto, although they have great depth and great bench, their best player that they could probably give him maybe Pascal Siakam, but I'm hearing that Toronto wants to keep him. You've got Van Vliet. I'm not sure if they'll maybe want to move Larry. I'm pretty sure if the Pelicans were to do a trade, they'd want Larry. So a lot of these things would happen. So I really can't see Anthony Davis going to any of those places there. Plus, he wants a big market. So New York, LA, Boston, these big markets that not only would be good for him as a player, but also financial reasons or, post NBA career if he wants to do business and things like that. And so that's what I think Anthony Davis will land.
I think if that's the case, New York would be the best landing spot for me, because if they trade again, if the Knicks trade again, because that was a shocker with KP going to the Dallas Mavericks, that was a shocker in itself. Now, if the Knicks do another trade to get Anthony Davis, I think that's going to attract some players to come into New York in free agency. I don't want to say it, but possibly Kyrie. It might attract Durant. It might attract a few other max contract type of players. So if New York can pull this off and they got rid of KP and they could get Anthony Davis, New York is back in town. New York basketball is back if they can pull this off. But I just don't see it. I just feel like with those young key pieces in Milwaukee, I think you don't have to give up much to get Anthony Davis. I think you don't have to give up much. You could keep Middleton and probably trade at least one or two players to get Anthony Davis. Because if he says he wants a long-term contract in Milwaukee and in these other teams, you only have to give up as much. See, the Lakers was trying to give up their whole roster just to get one player with future 2 first-round draft picks. I don't think that's the best way to go, just to get one player to team up with LeBron. Now, another thing could happen too. If the Lakers can go get Carmelo Anthony, right? You can get Carmelo Anthony to add that second piece. Now you can bump down your trade and not give up all those players. You could just, instead of 5 players, you could just give away 2 or 3 and a draft pick because you already have that superstar next to LeBron. You could do that as well. But as far as us, we're only analysts, we're only podcasts, so we say it from a different perspective.
We're not GM.
From a general manager's perspective, but I think that would be a better idea since Carmelo's on the free agent market.
I agreed, and a lot of teams are for some reason, which is baffling to me, they're getting Carmelo, they're trading him for cash, or they're getting rid of him, which they're waiving him, not even getting rid of him. And Carmelo, I understand that he's in his latter parts of his years, but the guy he has a unique talent that not a lot of players can do. He has a knack for getting buckets. Guys like that don't grow on trees. As old as he is, he still has a knack for getting buckets. I understand that he's a liability on defense, but he can help a Lakers off the bench. And agreeing with you on that is, yes, if they happen to get Carmelo, instead of giving 4 first-round picks, they can get 2 and perhaps lure Anthony to Los Angeles. Another piece that you forgot, let's say if the Lakers, for instance, don't happen to get Kyrie Irving, or don't happen to get Anthony Davis, they can go out and get Kemba Walker from Charlotte. They can go out and get Jimmy Butler, who's I'm not sure if he's going to re-sign with your Sixers there. So there's other options that I think that Magic Johnson is kind of looking towards. He doesn't want to put all his eggs in one basket, knowing that as great as Anthony Davis is, will I have to trade my entire asset of teams and not have a pick for until 2023, 2024 in order to get this generational talent of Anthony Davis.
Right. So the saga only continues with this Anthony Davis talk, Kyrie talk, even Klay Thompson talk. Like, it's so much going on with these players. Think about everybody want to go to the Lakers. I think in general, some of these players need to think about, what can I do for the East? Because if you all stacking up on the West, it's making it one-sided, in my opinion. It's making it one-sided. You already have, 5 All-Stars on the Golden State Warriors as starters by themselves. I don't understand you want to do all these super teams, but even out the playing field a little bit. See what you can do in the East. I understand the West Coast is warm, it's beautiful, it's nice out there. See what you can do. See, Toronto's a nice marketplace to go, in my opinion.
Right. There's things to do out here in the East, man. You know what I'm saying?
It's nice to go. Like, it's nice to come to Philadelphia. People want to come to Philadelphia. Hopefully, we can keep Jimmy Butler. But it's another topic for another time. But speaking of the East, let's talk about it. John Wall, another injury. He fell in his house and he tore his Achilles, and he will be out another year. For the Washington Wizards, if you was the GM and the owner, would you get rid of John Wall, or would you keep him and let him heal?
This is tough. Personally, from a fan's perspective, I'm a huge John Wall fan as well as Damian Lillard fan. These two brothers are dynamic as players. John Wall, coming into the league out of Kentucky, this guy was just like a De'Aaron Fox, just one motor, fast, can get to the bucket, and he's learned and developed into a great point guard. You know, in the last 2 seasons, he's averaged a double-double, second in the league in assists, and he's a great defender as well from the point guard's position. Excellent size, excellent NBA size at that point guard frame. And so if I was the GM, this is tough. I've got Bradley Beal, who's an excellent scorer and an all-star himself. It's tough. As great as John Wall is, I'm thinking about moving him. Here's why. One, he just signed that max 4-year, $170 million contract. As great as he is, and he's not going to be there for a year, almost 2 years. I got to get rid of that bad contract right there. Try to move him. Send him to Memphis. Mike Conley wants out of the Grizzlies. Mike Conley is an excellent, and I mean an underrated point guard. He's the type of guy that can win you a series in the postseason. He can win you a first-round series. He can win you a second-round series. Obviously, he's going to need help moving on forward, as in conference finals or NBA finals, to do that. But he's that type of talent at the point guard position that can win you a series. And pairing up with Bradley Beal, he's more of a facilitator rather than John Wall being a scorer and a facilitator. And so if I'm the GM, I actually explore these options. I'm not saying that I would trade John Wall, because the John Walls, again, don't grow on trees. I mean, what the guy can do from coast to coast, from end to end, I mean, only Russell Westbrook comes to mind as in terms of just raw talent and as in terms of speed and aggression and explosiveness. But I would look and explore and come with the ideas, the options. What is his trade value? I talked to a couple teams. I would entertain a couple offers, seeing what I could get in return for John Wall.
It'll be tough to trade John Wall, in my opinion, knowing that he already had heel surgery and just tore his Achilles. Now, if you go and get a Mike Conley, you won't get a John Wall right now. So it kind of hurt the Grizzlies in that aspect. Now, it's been talks about, Grizzlies trading Conley to the Utah Jazz for Rubio. It's kind of a makes sense trade there. But, I mean, I would trade.
Indiana's in the mix as well with Oladipo's injury.
Yeah, so Oladipo is like, I think this is like his first major injury outside of John Wall always being injured majority of the time. So it's kind of a different situation with Oladipo, because Oladipo, they already know he's going to come back, he's going to bounce back and still be the face of the Indiana Pacers. John Wall, we already know he's already the face of the Wizards, but he just can't stay on the basketball court. And it's just a repeated injury over and over. But if you're going to send him to a team where you can get some type of value at the big man spot and at the guard spot.
Yes, indeed.
Even if you want to do the Grizzlies, get something, put it in a package deal with Gasol and Conley for John Wall and at least somebody else. I don't know who that other person would be. Or you could do some type of three-way trade where he could go somewhere and somebody else could go somewhere and just make it an even trade. John Wall is explosive. He could score. He could pass. It's just that he's so injury prone. It's just like, can you trust him majority of the year? And that's the only issue that the Wizards really have at that guard and big man position. They got a nice forward. They got a two guard in Bradley Beal. You just need that steady facilitator like a Mike Conley or a Ricky Rubio. You could do one of those type of guys. So with him hurting his Achilles right now, that's going to be out for the next 2 years with that contract. You're going to have to reconstruct it, or you're going to have to. I mean, you don't want to waive him. You don't want to waive him while he's under contract. You really don't want to do that. You got to get some type of value for him, get some type of cash, get some type of trades. But somebody should be looking into trying to, move John Wall, in my opinion. It just hurts to see it happen.
Agreed. And it hurts to see it happen. Here's the problem with the Wizards. The Wizards are stuck because they've got two excellent players, and their two excellent players are in their backcourt with Bradley Beal and John Wall. Other than that, they really don't have any depth. They lack depth. You've got Jeff Green. He's good. Dwight Howard's supposed to be something. He's not quite the guy that he once was in his prime. So they're stuck with that. And I think the Gortat trade, losing that big man, was huge, because when Gortat...
They should never traded him in the first place.
Right. The high screen pick and roll with John Wall and Gortat was excellent for the Wizards, along with Trevor Ariza. That's another guy that they really miss. Mm-hmm. And so they really got to explore options. Okay, if I trade John Wall, can I get a guy that can play a role of a Trevor Ariza, even though they have him back now? Can I get a guy that can be competent or even better than what Dwight Howard is now. Dwight Howard's your prototypical center, but can I get a guy that can stretch the floor? Can I get a big that can stretch the floor? So you got to think about and explore all these options for John Wall, because for 24 months, almost 2 years, and with that massive contract that he's got, that's a handful for any franchise, and that's a cap hit right there.
Yeah, that's a big cap for it. I absolutely agree. But hopefully, John Wall can get back to full recovery. I hope it's not the same Achilles that he just got the heel surgery on. Hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah.
Hopefully
no
that's
doubt.
not the case, because that's two type of healings that's going to take a long time. You're already out for the heel, and then the same foot was the Achilles. That's going to be tough.
Real tough.
In my opinion. But we do have some basketball games coming on tonight. We do have some college basketball games coming on tonight. The number one superstar in college basketball, Zion Williamson. Do you think the Knicks is in the run to get him, or do it comes down to the lottery pick? Because I have an issue with the NBA lottery pick. I think it should be like the NFL. I think it should be the worst team in the NBA to the best team in the NBA in the draft. I think the lottery pick, it gives better teams better picks, in my opinion. I think the worst team should get the top pick, and it should go in order of how the season went. So that's a two question for you. That, do you think the lottery pick should be changed to the NFL format, or do you think Zion Williamson is going to go to the New York Knicks?
So to answer the first question there, it builds parity. I like it. You want mayhem. This is why we, as consumers and as fans and as podcasters, of course, we love sports. We love the unknown and what we don't expect. If you change it to the NFL format, like the Arizona Cardinals, they were the worst team this year. They got the top pick in the draft order. Right now, that would probably be Phoenix, the Bulls, or something like that.
Or Cleveland.
Or Cleveland, yeah. If you did it like that, everybody would know the unknown, and they would kind of strategize for it. With the lottery, you really don't know. And what I like about it is it's a raffle, and any team can be drawn and picked, and it makes sense. The Knicks have been bad for you. When you think about the Knicks, I'm a '90s guy. When I think about the Knicks, I think of free agents, and I think of big stars. You think of the Bernard Kings of the world, the late Patrick Ewing, Allen Houston, Carmelo Anthony. It only makes sense for Zion Williamson to be the great one, the next great one, the next great guy in the Garden, the Mecca. It only makes sense for the Knicks to draft him. Porzingis was supposed to be that. Obviously, he didn't want to be there. But Zion, you can tell that the minute that he steps foot inside MSG, the media and the fans will just embrace him. And so, do I think the Knicks will get him? Well, they have a 14% chance of getting him. That's better than zero. It's up for grabs. You really can't say that they are definitively gonna get him, but it makes sense that the Knicks, if they were to get the number one overall pick, they come to him. And not only that, Zion Williamson himself, let's say the Knicks don't get any draft picks, right? They don't get any free agents this season, although they have max space for 2. Zion Williamson himself, I believe, is transcendent talent, like a once-in-a-generation talent. I mean, this guy is box office. He himself alone is going to make free agents want to come to New York. I mean, Zion Williamson, for me, I thought that he was just a highlight reel dunker. Dominique Wilkins, a Blake Griffin guy. He's shown me, along with the coaching of Coach K, that he's not only that guy, he can step out of 15 to 18 feet and shoot mid-range jump shots. He can shoot the 3, although he's not a volume shooter yet. He can put the ball on the floor, attack you, lay it in. It's not a finesse player. He's more talented than I didn't think as well. And I can tell you right now, he's going to be the consensus number 1 overall pick.
Now, if the Knicks are not that number 1 overall pick, then they lose out. But Zion Williamson has proven to me as well. I thought he was a highlight reel. I thought he was an Instagram highlight reel where we found him. And Coach K is molding him to be ready for the NBA.
No doubt.
He could run up and down the floor. He could defend. He could post up. I think he's better in the post outside of the little 15 or 18 footer. I mean, if he could put his back to the basket and be a dominant force, if he could get some more post moves, there's no way you pass up on Zion Williamson, no matter what you are at number one. I don't care if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves at number one. You don't pass up on a guy like Zion Williamson.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you hit it right on the dot there, my man. You have Zion Williamson. When I looked at him, I thought, okay, he has a LeBron James body, but he can jump through the roof like Vince Carter. We haven't seen a talent
heavier than LeBron James too.
exactly, and we haven't seen a talent like that in the NBA perhaps ever. And then now we're figuring out through Coach K, and I thought that was the best thing for him. He could have went to Kentucky, Kansas, anywhere, but he decided to go to Coach K and get coached by Coach K to develop his game. And now we're finding out that he's not only a finesse guy, he could shoot, he can put his back to the basket, he can attack you on high screen and rolls. He sees a smaller guy on him, he's going downhill, he sees a bigger guy, a big on him, he'll take him to the basket. And what is compelling to me, and I don't know if you've seen this, he can guard 1 through 5. That right there as a GM, I love, because that creates versatility. You're telling me I can draft a guy that can guard 1 through 5. Zion Williamson, look out.
The guy's amazing. Him and RJ Barrett, they both lengthy as ever. Two different styles, but they are number 1 and 2 in this draft and coming up soon. So this is going to be interesting to watch on what teams, get number 1 and 1 or 2 in this lottery pick. If my Sixers get at least the number 2 pick, don't pass up on RJ Barrett. I'm just letting you know that right now, Sixers.
Well, on my big board, when I did my mock draft, I actually had Joe Morant out of Murray State. I think I put him a little bit ahead of RJ Barrett. Now, RJ Barrett himself has a unique talent that a lot of players don't have. He's a bucket getter. Right. He's an elite scorer. But what I like about Morant is he's explosive. I mean, the highlights just speak for its own. This brother jumping from the free throw line and slamming it home. He's a facilitator. He's the only guy in Division I right now, 20 points per game, 11 assists a game. So he's getting it done, and he's getting his teammates involved. And also he can guard. He is a legit 6'6" at the point guard position and can guard 1 through to 3. And that's compelling to me. That's why I had him a little bit higher on my big board at 2, just because of his versatility. And I think that he's a franchise-changing type of player. Right behind it, I had Barrett at 3. No doubt, this guy can really score the basketball.
Well, Sixers, if you get at least top 3, top 5, don't pass up on any of these players. That's all I'm going to say for my Sixers. Listen, if the Celtics even in that top 5 in that lottery pick, same. Don't pass up. When y'all got Jason Tatum, listen, that changed a lot. Y'all picked well with him, especially y'all got him with the number 2, number 3 pick.
Well, we had the top pick, and then we traded down with Philly and kind of robbed them to get Tatum. Yeah. So they have faults, and then we got Tatum. But I mean, frankly, Danny Ainge has really been robbing teams since he's been GM.
According to the Markelle Fultz, I just don't care for him. I just hope we treat him. Get him out of here. I don't want to get too much into that, but I do want to get into this. I did see this yesterday as well. What Kobe Bryant said about James Harden. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes, I did.
That he said that Kobe Bryant said that James Harden won't win a championship if he's like, I guess he said something about him having the ball too much. They won't win a championship if he has the ball too much in his hands. So I absolutely agree with that. I feel like he has the ball in his hand a little bit too much. But you look at the coach as well, Mike D'Antoni. He's a fast-paced type of coach. You want to run up and down the floor. But you can't win games if you're scoring 46 and nobody else is in double figures. You're not going to win basketball games like that. That's like saying you score 50 and I score 8 and we lose the game. What was the point of you scoring 50 for? Like, you score 50 to lose. I don't see the Rockets winning because don't know the health of Chris Paul. Don't know if he's going to be able to play the whole playoffs, 1. 2, we don't know. I think Capella's done for the year, ain't he? I'm not too sure what Capella's injury was, but we have not seen him lately. And I don't know getting rid of Trevor Ariza was a huge spot of why they shouldn't have got rid of him. Bledsoe is good. PJ Tucker's good. But I just don't see it. The more James Harden got the ball in his hand, I think the lack of trying to win a championship, the Rockets won't win one, in my opinion.
No doubt. And I find it ironic. Me, as a Celtics fan, Kobe Bryant was a nightmare to guard. So I found it interesting because Kobe himself was a guy like James Harden, a maestro at drawing contact, getting to the foul line at will, getting anywhere that he wants with the basketball and scoring on you. I mean, this guy was just an assassin's mentality and just a nightmare to be in front. And James Harden has become that guy. And so I thought it was funny, Kobe Bryant coming out and saying that that type of talent won't win in the NBA. But you were that guy once. And so I thought it was a little bit fun. But I do agree with them because James Harden, I've said he is in the discussion perhaps as maybe one of the best offensive weapons that the league has ever seen. Mm-hmm. Kobe was great, but Kobe didn't have the handles that James Harden had. He didn't have the passing and the facilitating ability that he has. Now he has the mentality to win games. That's what James Harden doesn't have yet. But as in terms of an overall just offensive juggernaut, I don't think the league's ever seen in that. And so he's basically saying that James Harden, you won't win like that right now, especially in the postseason. The postseason teams are going to key on you and say, hey, we're going to get the ball out of your hands. We got to see what House can do. We got to see what Austin Rivers can do. We got to see what PJ Tucker can do. We know that you can beat us. We don't know what they can. And so the return of Chris Paul is going to be pivotal for them because that's going to have more ability for James Harden to have off-ball duties rather than dominating the ball that he normally does. And D'Antoni, I believe, is going to have to adjust. D'Antoni's this guy that says we're going to bomb and attempt 33s. We don't matter if we make 8 of them. That's the style that we play. Well, I think he's going to have to adapt to that because when you're playing the Golden State Warriors, you're playing right into their hands. They're a 3-point shooting team. You're not going to outscore the Golden State Warriors, especially right now. So, coming into the postseason, it's going to be difficult. And I agree with you. I don't think this year that the Rockets are the team that's going to be second fiddle to the Warriors to contend with them. I actually have the Oklahoma City Thunder as that team thus far.
You hit it on the money, but there's a difference between Kobe Bryant's teams and James Harden's teams. Kobe Bryant had a good amount of big men. He had a good amount of role players that could score as well. The problem I have with the Rockets is, outside of James Harden and Chris Paul, who do you really have as that third scorer? Right. That's my issue. Like, say, when Kobe was playing, he had a Gasol in his prime that could give you 14, 15 points. And then you had
you had Lamar over there. You had Derek Fisher. You had guys.
Yeah, you had the people that could give you, at least a small of double figures, like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. With the Rockets, you're not getting that from PJ Tucker. You're not getting that from Eric Bledsoe.
Eric Gordon is supposed to be. Eric Gordon is supposed to be that guy, but he's a very streaky guy. I believe his best days are behind him with the Pelicans. So it's tough. It's really tough. Really tough. And frankly, it's not his fault. He's carrying the team because he has to. I mean, he's dominating the ball. He has to. It's not that he's dominating the ball and they're losing and he's hogging the ball per se. He's carrying afloat this Rockets team that's a 5 or 6 seed right now in the West until Chris Paul gets back, right. So they can really get the engine running. That the Rockets that they are, they're a juggernaut offensive unit, and so he's doing what he has to do. But I agree with you. Come postseason time, that mileage is really gonna carry with him. He's already top 3 in the NBA in minutes, and so it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. If I were Dan Marley, the GM for the Rockets, I would consider talking to D'Antoni and saying, we've got to try to limit his minutes. We've got to try to probably get maybe another ball handler before the trade deadline, maybe another shooter to, you know, to go alongside James Harden in the dynamic player that he is. Because come postseason time, what if Chris Paul isn't available? We need to have another ball handler as well, and so that's something I would definitely consider.
Yeah, even whoever's that backup for Chris Paul, like I mean Austin Rivers, I'm not really a big fan of. He has not had a best of career since he's came in. So I'm not really trusted to put the ball in his hands there with that topic. So let's go strictly from the NBA to the NFL. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the NFL, but let's talk about it. The Super Bowl. What a horrible Super Bowl. Live streamed this, live commentary, live play by play, and it was the most boringest NFL game this year. I have to say it. I'm not saying how the Super Bowl was just as bad as the halftime show, but right. I want to get in.
That was really bad. That was really bad.
Yeah, it was a terrible halftime show. Terrible. I actually ended up watching WWE halftime Heat instead of watching the halftime show. So that's another topic with wrestling for another time on that. But the Rams, 3 points. 3 points. Do you feel like the Patriots won this game or the Rams lost this game?
This is a very interesting question. I think if you told the Rams, I think if you're the coach of the Rams, somebody told you it would be 3-3 going into the fourth quarter, would you take that? Would you sign up for that?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that, and I agree. If I was Sean McVay, I would sign up for that as well. That tells me that, okay, our defense has been dominating thus far, and we've been paying attention to details. That 2 weeks to prepare has really paid dividends for us because we're limiting Brady possessions. We're dominating, and that would tell me Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald is dominating inside the trenches. And frankly, that's what it was. Brady looked rather pedestrian. The run game was there, and they were running the football, but in the passing game, outside of Edelman, guys like Hogan wasn't getting separation. Gronk was limited. And so the Rams actually really took advantage of that 2 weeks to prepare leading up to the Super Bowl. And like I said, it was 3-3 going into the fourth quarter. Now, here's the difference. Difference is you arguably got the best coach and the best quarterback of all time 2 weeks to prepare. Bill Belichick, out of everybody, the only guy I can really think about is Greg Popovich in the last 20 years. There's no coach that I think that game plans better with less talent than Popovich and Bill Belichick. These two guys, the words don't speak enough for how great that they are. Bill Belichick, can you really name a superstar in that defense outside of Stephon Gilmore, the all-pro corner? Maybe Hightower was a great middle.
I'll say that Hightower.
Other than that, or Van Noy as well. But outside of that, I mean, these guys are just like, scraps. But yeah. You gave Bill Belichick 2 weeks to prepare, and then you have a young quarterback, Jared Goff. I mean, Tony Romo was telling it. He was missing reads. You can tell he's a young quarterback. The pressure was there all night long. I mean, endless pressure up front. And Bill Belichick did a fantastic job. Mitch saying that, okay, we know that Gurley is dominant as you are, and we understand that you are all-time great. We're not going to let you beat us. So, and I think he was banged up as well. And so the game came down to Goff's hands, and you just knew the way that the game it was going, that although it was 3-3, if Brady just had a chance to get inside the Rams' territory, close to the red zone, they would make a play or two to win this game. Jared Goff was not built for this moment. I felt that Sean McVay, as a play caller, didn't do a fantastic job game planning this game. For me, knowing that I have Jared Goff as a young quarterback, automatically Todd Gurley, I don't care how injured you are, you're getting 25 touches. You just got to. You're my franchise player on the offensive side of the football. You're getting 25 touches. And I think he didn't really do a good job with that. And he said in a post-game conference he regrets that. But at the end of the day, words don't express how six rings, Belichick and Brady, game planning. They game plan better than anybody. And what I like about them is they can morph from something to something else game to game. Looking at that Chiefs game, Brady threw the ball 50 times. This game, he only threw the ball for only 30 times. They morph, and they're a kind of chameleon offense. They morph to something different every time, and I thought that they did a fantastic job doing that, and props to them. Tom Brady, the GOAT that he already is, just solidifying another token in his legacy.
You know what was the Rams missing in this offense was Cooper Kupp.
No doubt.
I think the Cooper Kupp injury went down, and it really hurt the Rams going down into the regular season, going into the postseason. That was Goff's security blanket. Like Brady is to Edelman, Goff was to Cooper Kupp. 10 carries for Todd Gurley.
Not going to cut it.
Disappointing. But here's my thing. You brought in C.J. Anderson for a reason. He played well in the playoffs. He was actually moving the ball, giving you at least 4 to 5 yards a pop as him in the backfield. I understand he's not the catching type of running back, but I think if what the Rams could have did was get those 5 yards a pop, keep running that ball, it would make the defense honest. It would have opened up for Brandon Cooks. It would have opened up for Robert Woods. And none of the tight ends scored a catch for the Rams in this Super Bowl. None. Not Higbee or not Everett. Either of them don't even have a catch in this game. Gronk had 6 receptions. Had 80 yards, but he was effective when it was needed right up the seam. Y'all was stopping that all game for the Rams. But in my opinion, I think this was karma for the Rams. And I'm just going to be honest. I think it was karma. I think the Rams was not meant to be there.
No doubt.
I know that people want to say, oh, the call is over and it happened. Understanding that. But if we would have had a competitive game, if the Saints would have been coming out of the NFC, yes, it would have been way more competitive.
No doubt.
Way more. Because you have 2 running backs that's healthy. That's one with Kamara and Ingram. And you had a monster of a guy in Michael Thomas.
Right. You've got Drew Brees as the Hall of Famer. Brees and Brady would be excellent to watch.
Right. Brees versus Brady in the Super Bowl, and knowing the careers that they passed, the careers, what they passed on, like with the records they did in the regular season, just to see them meet up in the Super Bowl, it would have made sense. I mean, I did have my storybook ended was Saints and Chargers, just because of the backstory of Brees used to be.
That was my pick. That was my pick as well.
You know, Brees used to be a Charger, and they drafted Phillip Rivers after they got rid of Brees. See Phillip Rivers and Brees in there after that whole storyline. That was my 2 picks to go to the Super Bowl. But you gotta give Brady and his Patriots team some credit. They did what they supposed to do with Burkhead and Sony Michel. Sony Michel had a phenomenal season as a rookie. Burkhead
no doubt.
is just one of them bruiser type of running backs where he could dominate you in the fourth quarter. Look what he did in the Super Bowl and in the AFC Championship. He did it both. And Julian Edelman, like, that's another question I do want to people. People saying that this guy is not a Hall of Famer. I think he is. He passed Jerry Rice for most receptions in the Super Bowl. That's an accomplishment there.
And he's second in NFL history in most receptions by a receiver.
Yep. So, in my opinion, yes. How do you feel? Do you feel like I don't think he's the first ballot, but I think he is a Hall of Famer.
Here's the thing. So America knows I'm a Brady guy. So by default, I'm a Patriots fan. But Julian Edelman, it's tough because you ask yourself this. A guy like Isaac Bruce that used to play for the greatest show on turf, the Rams, Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Torrey Holt, he's got 15,000 receiving yards, right? Mm-hmm. Till this day, he hasn't made he hasn't been in Canton, Ohio. He hasn't been in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So you've got guys like Hines Ward. Hines Ward has identical numbers to what Julian Edelman has for his career. Hines Ward, and is also a Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl 40, against the Seahawks. And so you ask yourself, there's a lot of guys. I mean, Julian Edelman is a champion, 3-time champion. He is a fierce competitor. I remember the hit that Cam Chancellor gave him in Super Bowl 49. He got up and continued to get 4 or 5 yards. This guy is, I mean, he's hard-nosed, man. He's tough. But there's no lacking about his production. On the field with Brady, he's really good. What the argument is going to be this: if Edelman were to play on another team outside of the Patriots system, would he be this successful? I think he would. I don't think at this level, because obviously he's a product of Tom Brady. But I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. It's just hard for a receiver to really get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You've got guys like Isaac Bruce, who still hasn't gone in yet. Santonio Holmes. Santonio Holmes is a 2-time champion and also has numbers that compare with Julian Edelman.
One of the greatest catches of all time from Santonio Holmes as well. In the Super Bowl, right?
Right. So it's tough. It's tough, but I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no.
That's kind of, you being a Patriots fan and actually saying that's kind of tough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something about his. I think we're in an NFL office where that slot receiver is needed.
Right.
And that's why I feel like he deserves to be in. It's not a lot of slot receivers that get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But if you look at his stats, and if he keeps growing on his stats and keeps playing at a high level the way he is every single year, mind you, he came off of an ACL injury on top of that. So, I gotta put him up there. I don't think he's the first ballot, but I think he's going to get in eventually.
Well, if he continues in this route, let's say Brady, he says he wants to play till 45. I don't know, but let's say Julian Edelman already has the rings. 3 is excellent. 3 is enough. What I would say is, if he continues to progress as in terms of his numbers, as in terms of his individual statistics, there's no saying that he won't get in. He's already got the individual accolades and the team accolades with the Super Bowl rings. He's just really got to up his individual stats as a performer, whether that be receptions, whether that be catches and things like that, or whether that be touchdown catches in single seasons, things like that. There's always room for growth. Now, obviously, he's in the latter parts of his career. He's over 30. But let's say he plays till 45. That's 4 more years of maybe great football from Tom Brady. Edelman can definitely benefit off of that, and his numbers are only going to progress through that. So there's always going to be hopes for him to get in. And I agree with you. If he does get in, he may not be first ballot, but he'll probably do get in. As of right now, if I were to vote, I would say no.
All right. Okay. Now, speaking of Patriots, I want to just say this, because I know y'all have a dynasty going on. And I know I want to have this debate with you. And I know you probably going to be like, here we go. Because I am a Oakland Raiders fan. Do you feel, if it wasn't for that tuck rule, would you still have this dynasty? Thank you to us. Let's be honest, as a fan, I had to bring it up because this dynasty thing is kind of cringing me a little bit. Me being a diehard Raiders fan since 1999. Listen, I know my Raiders are doing bad right now, but do you feel that tuck rule changed the aspect of y'all getting that dynasty?
It really factors into it. It does. I would say that, let's say, for instance, that the Patriots don't go to that Super Bowl. Let's say it end up being the Raiders and the Rams in that Super Bowl rather than the Patriots and the Rams, and they advance to that Super Bowl there. I still believe that you've got the core nucleus. That's Brady, that's Kraft, that's Belichick. That core nucleus is still intact. I still think that they would have figured out a way later on to get to still have this dynasty going. I mean, you've got great players. There's a lot of Patriot haters out there, and I think that you're not. America as a whole is Patriot haters, and I believe that when Brady and Belichick retires, we're taking this for granted. This will never be done ever in a modern era. What we're seeing right now. Think about this: the Patriots have won Super Bowls, but Brady has won rings in his 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, you think that will ever happen again? It's what we're seeing is just astronomical greatness, and so yes, the tech will factored into it, but I still think that Brady and Belichick this would have still been done. Obviously, that play right there, that's a key play because it started the dynasty right there. But let's say that didn't happen. Let's say the Raiders got into the Super Bowl and they actually won. Um, do I think that the Patriots would still be this dynasty? Absolutely.
Okay, I'll see it from your perspective. I just feel like you just got to thank us for starting that dynasty. Just thank us.
Right.
Thanks to Charles Wilson. Thanks to Charles Woodson, man, because he had to tackle his former quarterback at Michigan.
Right.
So. But as far as my Raiders go, my Raiders is not looking so well right now. I all know that we all moving to Vegas in 2020. San Francisco don't not want us to play at Oracle Park in San Fran because we're not playing in Oakland this year. I don't know what to think of this. As far as the Raiders fans go, it just hurts to see that we don't have a stadium to play in this year. So I'm trying to figure out what is going on with my Raiders right now. And since Mike Mayock is the GM, how do you feel about him coming in, being the GM, and being the actual player personnel type of GM?
Huge, absolutely huge. You took those ties away from John Gruden. First of all, I thought that John Gruden, you guys overpaid for him. And he got there and he just cleaned house. As soon as he got there, Mac out the door, regret. Amari Cooper out the door, regret. And it seems that Derek Carr per se is leaving. All signs show that he's leaving. I also think that's a regret. This is a guy in a couple years ago that had a 12-4 season, so he's got talent. But Mike Mayock getting those ties and actually being GM and having John Gruden focus on coaching is huge. And here's why. You're not going to see those stupid mistakes anymore. I thought Mac and Amari Cooper are mistakes. Those guys don't grow on trees. Obviously, you've seen what Khalil Mack did with the Bears this year. Immediate impact.
Same for the Dallas Cowboys and Amari
Cooper. Same back to the Dallas Cowboys. So he's going to come in, and what the Oakland Raiders are banking on right now, they have 3, potentially 4 first-round picks. You got to strike gold on those. You have to. You've got one in the top 5. I believe you have another one in the top 15. So a second one in the top 15. So they've really got to start drafting and developing their young players, and hopefully they turn out to be the Max, the Amari Coopers of the world. And so when Mike Mayock being the GM and also a personnel guy, knowing how to scout prospects, I think that's huge because you had to get that key right there, that key of power away from John Gruden, because you don't want John Gruden to make another mistake because he's already making 2 mistakes, and he hasn't been a full year under his coaching belt, so that's going to be tough. As in terms of where to play, that's always hard. I'm hearing that they want to play. They're probably going to play in the Giants' ballpark, the baseball ballpark, which is going to be tough. Not a lot of fan base there until you get to that monstrous dome that they're building in 2020 in Vegas. So it's tough sled for the Oakland Raiders, but I do think that they've got the right guy as a GM, and if they can strike gold with these first-round picks, they can perhaps build something for their future.
Now, we all know that I absolutely agree with you that we overpaid for John Gruden. I think we should have kept Jack Del Rio to have him redeem himself because we went 12-4 with him.
Right.
And Derek Carr got hurt. I think if Derek Carr wouldn't have got hurt, that was a Super Bowl run for us, in my opinion. Because we could have beat anybody in that first round Derek Carr was playing. And our defense was playing okay. Our offense was clicking with Crabtree, Amari Cooper, Jared Cook.
Seth Holmes, yep.
We had a nice, pretty good offense. And then that next year, Jack Del Rio goes 6-10. I think this should have been a redemption year for him. Because all the people that you named, Amari Cooper, Jack Del Rio drafted, Khalil Mack, Jack Del Rio drafted. Most of
But
the
I didn't think he deserved to get left. I agree with you. I would have re-signed him again, knowing and say, hey, show me this year you're in a hot seat. I agree with that.
right, and I felt like he should have stayed there, and for him to get fired, knowing there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, I think he could have had that in check. I think most coaches in the NFL, if you have a winning season next year and you fall off the next year by 6-10 is not really that bad.
They panic.
Yeah, they panic. If it was like 2-14, I would understand. But we won 6 games the next year. That's still better than half of the teams that never really make the playoffs in the last 5 years. Honestly, in my opinion, like it's still better than the Browns' record. It was still better than a lot of teams that didn't make the playoffs. Like it was better than the Cardinals' record. 6-10 was not bad. I just feel like he didn't have a chance to redeem himself as a coach. We didn't give him a chance at all. So Oakland Raiders, or whatever you want to call yourselves, according to next year, John Gruden, you got to get it right, man. I'm calling you out, or it's going to be an AAP out for your hiring because you gonna pay you here for the next 10 years, well, next 9 years now. So Oakland, you got to get it together. Simple as that. We're gonna move to this beautiful stadium in Vegas. If we don't have the winning product on the field, what is the point of that stadium? Period.
Yeah, that's it.
Period. Another stuff I wanted to get into. What is your opinion on Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and how you feel they went on? How you feel how they went about the season, and where you think they're going to fall in place? Are they still going to be Pittsburgh Steelers by the season start, or you think they're going to be on different teams?
So I think that a couple of weeks ago, or perhaps a month ago, I addressed this. I said Le'Veon Bell out the door. I said Antonio Brown out the door. Pittsburgh Steelers, those two key players are over. You have the killer bees. You had Ben Bell Brown, the 3 Bs, killer bees. That's what their nicknames were. Arguably the best receiver in the game. I believe he is. Arguably the top back in the game. He's top 2, top 3, Le'Veon Bell. And you can find a way to make it happen. Now, along with that, I'll say Bell and Brown, these guys are big personalities in the locker room. They can be good, they can be bad, they can be headaches, whatever you want to perceive them as. So they're both going to be gone. I think that Pittsburgh is a very good franchise. We're talking instead of the Oakland Raiders. They do a very good job in personnel developing with their young draft picks. I think they love what they have in James Conner. I think they love what they have in Juju Smith-Schuster being the number one now. With Antonio Brown leaving, he's only 20 years old. So I think that they're probably going to want to draft a quarterback, knowing that Big Ben is in the latter parts of his career. Try to, mold somebody to be ready in a couple seasons. But Ben and Brown are gone. For best fit for Le'Veon Bell, I said Indianapolis Colts. You pair him up with Frank Wright, that explosive offense. Marlon Mack, yep, and you've got him alongside with Andrew Luck, who I think is talent-wise is a top 5 quarterback in this league, and you've got T.Y. Hilton, and you can and things like that. And that also goes along with Antonio Brown. You give Andrew Luck outside of T.Y. Hilton a legit other number one, and Antonio Brown, look out for the Colts. So those players could potentially land in Indy. I've been hearing a lot of 49ers. Been hearing that Shanahan and Garoppolo really wants a number one for Garoppolo. So you could see, a Brown head in there. Jerry Rice is vouching for him as well. But the Jets have a lot of money. Maybe their young quarterback, maybe you give the young quarterback a guy that he can just hand the ball off, not to give the entire pressure of Sam Darnold the football to always throw it. So those couple teams come into mind, but as in terms of still being in Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, their days in Pittsburgh are definitely gone.
I absolutely have to agree to that, in my personal opinion there. I just don't know where Antonio Brown's gonna fall at. I feel like a lot of people saying that he's going to the 49ers. Um, I think he wants to be there, but I just don't know where Antonio Brown's going to fall. Now, there's so many places to drop for Le'Veon Bell. I'm not an Eagles fan, but the Eagles need a running back. The question is they going to pay? Is they going to pay the Eagles for if they're going to pay Le'Veon Bell? That is the question. Because I live in Philadelphia and I'm not an Eagles fan, so those Eagles fans out there, just letting you know now, I'm not an Eagles fan. So, but there's so many places that Le'Veon Bell can go. The Jets already backed out of it, saying that they're not paying that big money for Le'Veon Bell. They're not going to put out all that money for him, knowing they have other spots that need to be filled. So, Indianapolis Colts is the best place, in my opinion. You have a quarterback in Andrew Luck.
I agree.
Where they have upgraded their offensive line. They kept protected by Andrew Luck. Naeem Hines and Marlon Mack, and you might have to get rid of Jordan Wilkes. You might have to get rid of him. But now, outside of Le'Veon Bell, if you give him that contract, what you going to do at that wide receiver spot? Because that's what they're missing in Indianapolis. They miss it at second wide receiver outside of T.Y. Hilton.
And that's why I think Brown is a significantly better fit for Indianapolis. You put Antonio Brown on one side. You put T.Y. Hilton on another side. Tell me what team going to want to deal with that. So, I mean, what secondary going to want to deal with that? Because we all know Andrew Luck is a gunslinger. He's got a cannon of an arm, and he can sling it 60, 70 yards down. He would love to have toys in that offense to play around with Brown and T.Y. Hilton on the opposite side. Not saying that Bell wouldn't fit, but I think it's a match make if you have T.Y. on one side, Antonio Brown on the other side, and then I think that Marlon Mack is still pretty good. He's not the talent that Bell is, but if you can have him as the hammer, you can have Hine as the pass catcher, and you can have those two duos, oh, Lord, look out for Indianapolis.
So Indianapolis, if you have that cap space to even do some type of trade to get rid of Antonio Brown, because I think Antonio Brown's still under contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you can get some type of value for him, do it. Indianapolis, do it.
No doubt.
I think he could be over in NFC and playing San Fran, but right now, if you want to win a Super Bowl and you know it's a team that's closer than the 49ers winning the Super Bowl, go to the Indianapolis Colts. They were there. I mean, I think they would have played better if they would have had a second receiver. T.Y. Hilton was still nicked up. Ebron didn't really play his best, but you didn't have that actual receiver.
And again, and that's why I think Antonio Brown is the perfect match. Because if you have two great receivers like that, obviously they're going to try to key on them and double, but you can't because you have Ebron over the middle. He's going to occupy over the middle. And then when he occupies that, you're talking about one-on-one matchups for Antonio Brown, one-on-one matchups for T.Y. Hilton. That smells trouble for any defensive coordinator. Right. So I agree with you. If they just played a little bit better, their defense really got upgraded with the arrival of Darius Leonard, who looks like he's going to be a decade type of franchise-changing defensive player, like a Kuechly, Bobby Wagner caliber. So, yeah, if I am Jim Irsay, the general manager for the Colts, I'm seeing what I can get for Antonio Brown. Now, obviously, if Amari Cooper got a first-round pick, what the hell Antonio Brown gonna get? So, so you got to put that into perspective. But if I can try to get Antonio Brown, I've got Ebron, an elite tight end. He's probably going to be in the discussion for All-Pro. I think Travis Kelce will maybe get it. You've got T.Y. Hilton. So you add another piece like an Antonio Brown on that, and you already have Andrew Luck with a rejuvenated offensive line led by Quentin Nelson. Man, look out for those horses in Indianapolis.
But there you have it, guys. This podcast is officially over, but I do want to give a shout out to a network that Spotlight Sports Talk is under now called the Bear Fridge Network. They are from Scotland, and they reached out to us to be a part of their network to help promote other podcasts. So shout out to the Bear Fridge Network all the way out from Scotland. Them them guys, they do have stuff on Spotify, iTunes, and they just started their YouTube channel. So shout out to Bear Fridge Network from there. And I do want to thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And we had a good time talking sports, talking our opinions about everything. I didn't even know you was a Celtics or a Patriots fan. Now I know. I do have family that's Patriots fans, so it's good. Definitely having you on, my guy.
Appreciate. I'm pleased to be on the show here on the Spotlight, and yes, and I'm hopefully a returning guest later on in the future there.
Oh, you can always come on, man. You know, I do these things once a week, so we can always come on and talk, breaking news or whatever's going on in sports. But please follow this guy on all social medias. Y'all see it on the screen there. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Follow him on Spotify, iTunes. Hopefully Tidal have a podcast soon. I don't know what Jay-Z is doing with that. Tidal, let's get a podcast going for us as well. But you can follow me on social media. I have 2 of them. I have one for Spotlight, so it's Spotlight FB Talk. Darian SST. You see all of them on the Facebook on the screen right here. Instagram Spotlight Sports Talk, Facebook Spotlight Sports Talk. I want to thank y'all for being on and listening, because this will be an audio and a video podcast. Thank y'all for being on. Comment, like, and subscribe to both of our channels, man. And we see y'all in the next video. Thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be on the show.